Not just good snapshots, but great photographs. The only thing these pictures have in common is they were taken with a Minolta Maxxum Series I camera. Hi, I'm Joe Barrett. Welcome to the world of Maxxum photography. Your new 5000i is one of the most advanced cameras available today. It has a host of special features that will help you take an album filled with great photos, ones you'll be proud to share with your family and friends. It will also give you incredible creative flexibility to take the kinds of pictures you've always wanted to take. During the next few minutes, you and I are going to take a guided tour of your new Maxxum. First, we'll look at getting started, how to get your camera set up right out of the box. Next, we'll look at taking your first pictures, how to use your camera in its fully automatic modes to take great photos. And we'll expand your basic photos with the basics of composition, easy steps you can take so that your pictures are the best ever. Then, we'll spend some time talking about Maxxum's advanced autofocus system and how you can get the most out of it. We'll do the same for Maxxum's advanced Autoexposure system. We'll move on to the camera's special exposure modes, what they are, when, why, and how to use them. We'll take a look at how the self-timer gets you in the picture. And I'd like you to see why changing the lens on your Maxxum will help you take even better pictures. It's what separates SLR photography from the rest. And we'll look at the incredible range of lenses available and how easy it is to change from one to the next. Moving on to flash photography, we'll look at the special flashes designed for your Maxxum and the features they have. And we'll look at the incredible creative expansion cards. These let your Maxxum become even more flexible and let you become even more creative. We'll look at how adding filters to your Maxxum can do everything from improving reality to creating fantasy. And finally, we'll look at some wonderful accessories that help you get the most out of the total Maxxum experience. You and your Maxxum camera can do quite a lot to make the best photos, and you can always refer back to this tape for reminders. And of course, the instruction book packed with your camera covers a lot of material too. So let's get started, so that you can get started with your own Maxxum experience. I'm sure by now you've probably unpacked your camera and all that's in the box. First things first, the warranty cards. These cards do two very important things. First, they register the warranty for 2 years on the camera body and 5 years on the lenses. They also sign you up for a 2-year subscription to Minolta's Contact Sheet, an informative newsletter with tips, tricks, contests, photos, and information about new products to enhance your photography. Let's get down to business. The first thing you have to do to get your new Maxxum ready is to put on the lens. First, take off the plastic caps from both the body and the lens. Save these for later. You'll want to replace them when you store the camera or lens in your camera bag. Notice the red dot on the lens barrel? Match this with the red dot on the camera body, and then twist the lens clockwise until it locks into place. I'm sure you've also put the strap on the camera. I'll tell you later how and when to use this cap that slides over the eyepiece and prevents stray light from affecting exposure. Your dealer also has this optional, wider, more comfortable strap available for you. Using the instructions in the owner's manual, I'm sure that you've already learned how to put the battery into the camera. So, turn your camera on. Did you notice this display? It tells you that the battery is okay. If you see this display, your battery is about half depleted. And if you see this, you should replace it. Now, let's load some film. Open the back by sliding the release on the side down. Film choice is easy. If you want color prints for your photo album, Kodak's Kodacolor Gold 200 will give you good, consistent pictures almost anywhere you go. I'll mention when to use some of Kodak's other films later in this program. Place the film cartridge into the chamber and pull the tip past the mark. Make sure that the holes in the lower edge of the film engage the sprocket teeth. If the film extends too far or doesn't lie flat, gently push it back into the cartridge. Close the back of the camera until it snaps shut. The camera will automatically advance, and if the film is correctly loaded, the counter and the data panel will go to 1. If it doesn't, this tells you that the film wasn't loaded properly and you should open the back and try again. Today, most films are DX coded, to automatically set your Maxxum for the type of film you loaded. DX-coated films have DX printed on the box. You'll want to avoid films with ISO ratings less than 25 or more than 5,000, as well as films that are not DX-coated. Otherwise, your Maxxum will default to a film speed of ISO 100 and your pictures may not come out correctly. That's all there is to getting your camera up and running. Those simple steps set you up to go on to the fun and satisfaction of taking great pictures. So let's go. The first step to great pictures is holding the camera properly. This is the most important part of sharp images. Let's see how. The best way to hold your new Maxxum, whether it's a 3000i like this one or another model, is like this. Your left hand is the major support for the camera and the lens. It is the base that gives a stable platform for good sharp pictures. Your right hand holds the hand grip, with your index finger ready to take pictures on the shutter release. It also operates the up-down control to change the way your Maxxum takes pictures. This makes it easy to hold the camera for either horizontal or vertical pictures. To hold the camera as steady as possible, use your whole body to help you brace. With your left and right hands holding the camera, hold it to your eye and pull your elbows in tight. Without jerking, squeeze down on the shutter release. For vertical pictures, one of the nice features of the 35mm format, just move your right hand down and brace the lens with your left hand. Then you can release the shutter with your thumb or your index finger, whichever's more comfortable. Now, let's take a closer look at some of the controls you'll be using. Before we loaded the film on all of your camera's automatic systems, in the lock position, it locks the shutter and turns off all camera power so you don't accidentally waste pictures, like when the camera's in your camera bag. Pressing the shutter release button slightly activates the Maxxum's autofocus and autoexposure circuits. Pressing it all the way down takes a picture. Normally, you'll use your Maxxum in automatic focus mode, and the built-in AF illuminator will also help you focus in almost total darkness. But in some low-contrast situations, you may want to switch to manual focus mode. Move this switch down toward the AF-M label. Then you can manually focus the camera using the focusing ring on the lens, toward the AF-M label again. When you reach the end of a roll of film, the camera will automatically go into the rewind mode. With a fresh battery, this will take about... When the film is fully rewound, the motor will switch off automatically and the film cartridge symbol will blink. Then you can open the back and replace it with a new roll. There are times when you need to change films in the middle of a roll, like when you might want to change from print film to slide film. All you need to do is just turn the camera over and press the manual rewind button with a pen or a similar object. When you look through the viewfinder, you'll see a number of indications that tell you about the camera's operations. Let's go through them one at a time. The center box in the frame is the autofocus zone. Position this area on a straight line or high contrast area in your subject for quick, accurate focus. The two signals on the right are focus indications. When you press the shutter release, the camera will focus, and you'll see a green light when the camera locks focus. Then, the camera takes the picture. When you're taking pictures in some low contrast situations, a blinking red signal tells you that the camera can't lock on focus. If this occurs, you'll need to focus the camera manually, as I showed you before. A small arrow under the focus indicators is the Use Flash indicator. It blinks to recommend using a flash when the shutter speed would be very slow, or when using a flash would give a better result with a backlit subject. Wait a few seconds while it charges. The light will continue to blink while the flash is charging. While it's blinking, the camera locks the shutter and you won't be able to take a picture. When it stops, the flash is charged. Then you can take the picture. As soon as the flash is ready, a small lightning symbol will blink slowly. After you take a picture, it will blink rapidly to indicate that you were within proper flash range and you got a good picture. And so now you're on your way to taking great Maxxum photos. There are a number of other controls and indications on your new Maxxum that give you great flexibility in any picture-taking situation. But before we get to those in more detail, Let's talk a little more about something that can make your pictures great, and you don't need to push any buttons. Composition. Taking snapshots is one thing. Taking photographs is another. And one of the reasons that you bought your new Maxxum is to help you take great photographs. Memorable photos that you'll want to share with your family and friends. Well, in addition to your Maxxum, you already have the most important photographic instrument for that, your own eyes. So let's talk for a few minutes about composition and how you can take pictures which wonder of our world. Pictures that will be treasured by you and your viewers for years to come. Composition. Webster says it's putting the pieces of a picture together in proper proportion or relationship. And that's just what we're going to do now. Balance what we see in the viewfinder. Our subject, the elements around it, and the light. This will give you the best pictures, the kind you'll look back on fondly for years to come. You'll always know just why you brought the camera up to your eye at just that instant. But let's take it a step at a time. When you first start to take your pictures, your instinct, and it's a good one, is to put your subject in the center of the frame. This works well, as it allows the autofocus sensor to work easily and will get you some very nice snapshots. But it also tends to put too many elements into the picture. It makes it too busy. But if you move in closer, crop out the extraneous elements that distract you from the subject, you focus the viewer's attention exactly where you want it. Intimate close-ups of family and friends, their smiles, their faces. And all we really did was move in and eliminate a distracting background. You'll find that taking pictures with your new Maxxum is so easy, pictures like that will be a snap. And you'll get photos that you'll treasure for years to come. But of course, people's faces aren't all you want to preserve in your photographic memory file. There are mountains, rivers, canyons, and cities, groups of children, sunrises and sunsets, all of these and lots more. And these can all make great pictures. But instead of moving in, we now have to back up, show more of the scene. The trick is how to get more in the picture and not make it cluttered. Remember our theme, composition? Putting the pieces of a picture together. Well, there's an easy method for deciding exactly where to place the elements of your picture. It's called the rule of thirds. Just imagine that your viewfinder is divided by 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines. Wherever these lines intersect is a great place for an important element of your picture. Notice that when the main item of interest isn't dead center, you have a much more interesting, dynamic, dramatic picture. You can even use the rule of thirds when there's no subject to place at one of those intersecting points. When you're shooting a picture with a horizon, rather than just putting that directly through the center of the frame, put it either in the lower third of the frame or the upper third. Your picture goes from being static to dynamic. If the top of the picture is less interesting, let that occupy less of the frame. If it's the top that you want to show, then minimize, always put everything in the center. Now, if you're going to put your subject to one side or another, which side should it be? Well, in general, whichever way your subject is looking, that's where your viewer is going to look too, to see what it is they're looking at. And that's not always possible. So, have your subject look into the frame and not out. Rather than putting your subject on the edge of the frame looking out, put them on the other side looking in. That way, your picture contains the entire statement and doesn't leave your viewer wondering what was out there. Of course, placing the subject to one side may make it difficult for the focusing system, but don't worry. A little later, I'll show you how to use focus hold to focus on subjects that aren't actually in the AF zone. All right, the 3 things we've talked about: cropping your picture, the rule of thirds, and looking into the picture, all involve just moving the camera around. But you can also move yourself around, and in the process, get an angle that will help your photography say even more. The most intimate pictures are taken eye to eye, at the same level. If you're shooting a child or something that is lower to the ground, bend your knees, get down to that level. If you shoot down at them, they'll look small and distant. By the same token, if you shoot up at something, it will become bigger and more powerful. In either case, you control the feeling that the viewer gets from that photo, even if the subject doesn't change. These 4 simple points of basic composition will help you take photos that will be memorable for years to come. It means that you have to balance all of the various elements that you'll see in the viewfinder, but the pictures you get will be well worth it. Now, perhaps you've started to wonder, if you start to change the way you look at the world, do you have to change the way you take pictures and how you use your camera? The answer is yes. But fortunately, your Maxxum makes it easy. So let's take a more detailed look at the systems in your Maxxum camera that help you in these picture-taking situations. The autofocus system in your new Maxxum is the most advanced system available today, and it is automatically selected when you turn on the camera. As I mentioned before, just position the focus frame on your subject. Press the shutter release. The camera will automatically focus, confirm the focus, and take the picture. But, as we saw in the section on composition, you'll often want to compose your picture with the main subject off to one side, out of the focus frame. In this case, center your subject in the focus frame. Then press the shutter release slightly. The camera will focus, and you'll get focus confirmation. Now, without taking pressure off the shutter release, recompose your picture. Press the shutter release all the way down to take your picture. The camera will keep the focus locked regardless of what's in the focus frame, as long as you keep the button pressed down. Your new Maxxum can focus in almost no light at all because of its built-in AF illuminator. In low contrast, low light situations, the AF illuminator automatically projects a specially patterned beam of red light on the subject to help your Maxxum to focus. There are some situations which could give your Maxxum's autofocus system trouble. These might include subjects with very little contrast, like a cloudless sky, or 2 subjects in the focus frame that are at different distances, like an animal at the zoo behind bars, or if the subject is made up of evenly alternating light and dark lines which fill the focus frame. In any of these cases, shift the camera slightly to reposition the focus zone and use focus hold. You might also try manual focus. Move this switch. Then, look through the viewfinder at your subject and turn the focus ring on the lens until the subject appears sharp in the viewfinder. In manual focus mode, the shutter can be released at any time, even if the subject is not in focus. That's your new Maxxum's autofocus system, the most advanced system there is today. And it's only one of the automatic systems that your Maxxum offers to make photography effortless and fun. Focusing the picture is only part of the story. Your pictures also have to be well exposed. Light enough to show detail in the shadow areas of the picture, but not so light that the bright areas look washed out. Your Maxxum has a unique auto-exposure system that ensures that you get the best balance for your photos. Let's take a look. When you turn your Maxxum on, it automatically selects the programmed exposure mode. You can tell that you're in the program mode by the big P that appears on the data panel. This mode automatically calculates the best exposure for your subject and is locked on the instant the autofocus system confirms focus. The program mode automatically chooses the best combination of shutter speed and aperture based on its dual pattern metering system and the autofocus sensors. This is an integrated system. It also considers the lens you're using. This system is called AMPS, for Advanced Automatic Multi-Program Selection. In general, it will set faster shutter speed combinations for longer lenses, which magnify the image to bring it closer. And they will also magnify motion, so the higher speeds help prevent blur. This will give you more action-stopping ability with telephoto lenses. AMPS also sets smaller lens openings for shorter, wide-angle lenses. This will give more depth of field, or more things in focus. The AMPS program even works if you're using a zoom lens. Just like you can lock the focus, you can also lock the auto exposure if the bright affect the overall exposure of your picture. This enables you to recompose your picture and still keep the correct exposure. To lock the exposure, center the focus frame on the subject and push the shutter release partway down. This locks both the autofocus and the auto exposure. Now you can recompose and shoot your picture. If the lighting on your subject is very contrasty, you can base the proper exposure on a small portion by using the AEL button. First, focus the camera on your subject. When you get the green focus confirmation signal, remove your finger from the shutter release button. Now aim the camera so that the area you want to meter fills the viewfinder frame. Press the AEL button with your thumb and hold it in. Now recompose and take your picture. As long as you keep the AEL button pressed, the exposure will remain locked. Your Maxxum also has some special exposure modes that enable you to take special pictures in special situations. The special exposure modes are designed to give you even more creative flexibility and more picture-taking enjoyment. As I said before, when you turn the camera on, it's in the fully automatic program mode, indicated by the P on the data panel. This will give you many great photos. But if you want total control of both shutter speed and aperture, you can switch your new Maxxum 5000i into full metered manual mode. Open the card door on the side of the camera and press the mode button. You'll see the M, or manual indication, as well as the shutter speed and aperture settings. To change the shutter speed to a faster one, press the right control key. Higher shutter speeds will help freeze fast action. To select a slower one, press the left control key. This will let action flow. You can even set the shutter to stay open as long as you hold down the shutter release. This is called the bulb setting and is useful for pictures of fireworks or other subjects where you want the image to flow beautifully. The same keys, in combination with the aperture button, are used to control the lens opening. Hold in the aperture button and press the right button to set a lower aperture number, which is a larger lens opening. As I said, this will decrease the depth of field or the area in focus and help make your subject stand out against a busy background. Press the left button for a higher aperture number. This smaller lens opening will bring more of your background in focus. The exposure indicators in the viewfinder will let you know how your exposure settings compare to the camera's recommendations. To compare them, press the shutter release down slightly. When both exposure signals light, your settings agree with the camera's automatic recommendation. If only the upper one glows, your picture will be too light. Raise the shutter speed or aperture number. If only the lower one lights, then it will most likely be underexposed or too dark. Lower the shutter speed or your aperture number. Of course, these indications are only guides. You may want to deliberately over or underexpose your picture to create a special look. And of course, your Maxxum 5000i can use the new Aperture Shutter Creative Expansion card. This will let you explore 2 more approaches to exposure control for additional creative effects. I'll talk more about this card later. These built-in exposure modes on your Maxxum, coupled with the autofocus system, will give you unparalleled picture-taking flexibility. Now let's move on and talk a little about the different ways of taking a picture. Most of the time, you'll be taking the pictures with your new Maxxum. But the camera can also take pictures of you. It has a built-in self-timer that gives you a chance to get in the picture yourself. First, you'll need to steady your Maxxum, either with a tripod or by propping it on a handy ledge or wall. Your photo retailer has many great accessories for holding your camera in many different situations. Next, compose the picture the way you want. Make sure there's room for you in the picture. Open the card door and press the self-timer button. You'll see the self-timer indication in the data panel. Attach the eyepiece cap that's on the carrying strap to block unwanted light from entering the camera. See? I told you I'd tell you when to use this. Press the shutter release button and the camera will focus and start to beep. You've got 10 seconds to get into the picture. The camera will beep twice a second, and the AF illuminator will flash until the shutter releases. Your Maxxum will automatically reset itself and turn off the self-timer for the next picture. If you want to cancel the self-timer before the shutter release has been pressed, press the self-timer button again. To cancel it once you've pressed the shutter release, turn the camera's main switch to lock. So, there's no excuse for you not to be in your own photos. Now, I'm sure one of the reasons that you bought your new Maxxum was the ability to change lenses. Let's see how you can open a whole new window on the world. Lenses allow us to explore a subject in greatest detail, see it from all angles, and at all distances, and in all ways. Whether your new Maxxum is the first SLR camera you've owned, or you're an old SLR hand, you'll be amazed at the wide variety of autofocus lenses that are available to you, and how they open up your picture-taking possibilities. That's because the Maxxum autofocus lens family is the largest available for any autofocus camera. And all it takes to enter this world is a twist of the wrist. Almost every lens in the Maxxum family can be used on any of the Maxxum bodies. The 3000i, the 5000i, the 7000i, and the 8. The one exception is the 500mm AF mirror lens. It's not designed to be used on the 3000i. Most likely, you have what is known as a normal lens on your Maxxum. It's a lens that sees approximately what we see with our eyes every day. It has a focal length between 50 and 60 millimeters, and for general picture taking, it's fine. But if you want to get more into the picture, and you can't back up, then it's time for a wide-angle lens. These have focal lengths shorter than 35 millimeters, lower numbers, and as their name implies, they see a wider angle of view. They're great for broad vistas and exaggerated views. There's even an extreme wide-angle lens called a fisheye. This has a focal length of 16 millimeters and produces photos with a special curved look. This shows a very, very large slice of life. When you can't get close enough to a subject to get a large enough image, you have to go the other direction. Lenses with a focal length over 70 millimeters. These are considered telephoto lenses. And there are autofocus Maxxum lenses ranging all the way up to 600 millimeters. Let's take a moment to look at one subject and see the different results you get with some of the Maxxum autofocus lenses. Here's a picture of Lady Liberty with a normal lens, a 50 millimeter. Now, without moving from this spot, let's take a look at her with a 35 millimeter wide angle. A little more background. Let's move to a 28 millimeter, a 24 millimeter, and a 20 millimeter. Now, here's the 16 millimeter fisheye. Notice the curved shape of the image. It's very dramatic. So, the shorter wide-angle lenses make it look like we backed up without moving a step. Now, let's go back to the normal 50 millimeter lens and go up from there. Here's an 85 millimeter telephoto. Remember, we're getting closer without moving a step. A 100 millimeter brings us closer. And so does a 135. These are great portrait lenses because they bring you right in to get a nice tight view of your subject. Here's a 200 millimeter, again from the same spot, about 300 feet or 1 football field away. Our super long telephotos are next. First, the 300 millimeter. And then the big gun, the 600 millimeter. As you can see, when you use long telephoto lenses like these, you'll want to use a tripod to make sure you don't pick up any shake. There are also Maxxum lenses that let you see little things in a big way. These are called macro lenses, and instead of bringing distant objects closer, images. There are 3 autofocus macro lenses. 2, the 50 millimeter and the 100 millimeter, can let you get close enough to photograph a small subject at life size. This means that the image on the film will be as big as the real subject. These are autofocus lenses, so focus is no problem. But for convenience and sharp pictures, like the telephoto lenses, You'll want to use a tripod because the large image can also mean large blur from shaking the zoom. Will give you full autofocus performance to record images up to 3 times life size. The image of the subject will be up to 3 times larger than the actual subject. And finally, there's a wonderfully flexible category of lenses, the zoom. Simply put, these lenses combine a number of focal lengths in one lens, and just by turning the barrel, you can jump from a wide shot to a telephoto without moving a step. This gives you a great deal of creative control in deciding exactly of Maxxum zooms. They cover focal lengths from a wide 24 millimeters all the way to a far-reaching 300 millimeters. Zoom lenses are very popular today because of the great convenience that they offer. When you're traveling, you only need to carry 1 or 2 lenses. You can focus once and zoom all you want to get many different versions of a scene. And with today's faster films, you can use them anywhere and get great photos. So as you can see, the variety of picture-taking possibilities is limitless with the entire family of Maxxum autofocus lenses. Most experienced photographers keep a variety of lenses handy, both single focal length and zooms. This gives them the versatility they need to get that special picture and can help you select the best lenses for the types of pictures that you want to take. Now, there's one type of picture-taking situation that's taking pictures where you have to add light. So, let's shed some light on flash photography. Your new Maxxum 5000i has a built-in flash for making flash photography effortless. With Minolta's flash command system, the flash will automatically turn on and fire and works with your camera to adjust the flash to the focal length of the lens you're using, between 35 and 70 millimeters. It even changes as you zoom. The camera will also detect when your subject is backlit. It'll automatically turn the flash on for fill flash to give you great pictures in this normally difficult lighting situation. When you first turn the camera on, the flash will turn on and charge. When you try to take a picture of a scene that doesn't have enough light, the underexposure indicator will blink in the viewfinder. After a few seconds, the flash indicator will begin to blink, showing you that the flash is charged and ready to go. After you take the picture, the flash indicator will blink rapidly to indicate you were within the proper flash distance and got a good exposure. Then the underexposure arrow will flash again until the flash is recharged. If you don't want to use the flash, you can switch it off with this button. If you decide to take a picture when a flash is indicated without using the flash, make sure you steady the camera or attach it to a tripod, because the low shutter speed selected by the camera can cause a blurred picture. You can also use the flash and still slow down the shutter speed to get dramatic special effects. To enter the slow shutter sync mode, frame your subject and press the shutter release slightly. Press the AE lock button and hold it. Then just press the shutter release all the way down to take the picture. A slow shutter speed is set, and the flash output is decreased to compensate. An exciting new way to show your subject. Again, you should consider using a tripod in this situation to reduce blurring. In all, the flash was in program mode, but you can also use the internal flash in manual mode. This way, the flash will fire each time the shutter is released. You have a choice of any aperture available and shutter speeds from 1/90th of a second down to 4 seconds. Since the exposure is not being set automatically, you will choose the correct exposure settings. Your manual instances. You can also use the more powerful external flashes that are part of the Maxxum family of accessories. This will allow you to get even further from your subject and still get correct exposure, and it'll help to minimize the red eye phenomenon. They simply slide onto the accessory shoe on the top of your 5000 added and automatically switches to the accessory unit. The 2000i flash is a compact unit that increases effective range of your flash to 66 feet with ISO 100 film. The 3200i flash increases your flash range to almost 105 feet and has a zoom head to automatically adjust flash coverage from 28 millimeters to 85 millimeters. It even adjusts while you zoom. And the 5200i flash gives you a flash range of 171 feet, with zoom coverage for lenses from 24 millimeters to 85 millimeters, and also adds the creative lighting effects capable with bounce flash. It has the ability to control up to 2 additional flashes for multi-flash lighting, and it can create wonderful special effect images with a multi-burst function. This opens up whole new creative possibilities in flash photography. Also, using the OC cord and OS shoe, you can control up to 2 additional Maxxum flash units to achieve studio-style multi-flash lighting. These accessories are also another way to help control the red-eye phenomenon. Anytime you can get the flash farther removed from the picture-taking lens, you'll help reduce this effect. Of course, another way to reduce red-eye is to turn on many lights in the room where you're taking pictures and have your subject look slightly away from the camera. These tips, along with moving the subject further away from the camera, will all reduce the red-eye. Another flash that can help give you some wonderful close-up photos is the Maxxum Macro Flash 1200 AF. This unit attaches to your macro lens multi-flash effects that make pictures more exciting and memorable. You can change from full to dramatic lighting with a flick of a switch. As in general photography, films like Kodak's Kodacolor Gold 100 or 200 will give you the best combination of extended flash range and highest quality pictures. And remember to use a tripod if you decide not to use a flash in low light conditions, or if you use the slow speed flash sync mode. This will help to prevent subject blur. Now, let's move on to one of the most unique Maxxum features: how you can get all the benefits of years of professional picture-taking experience with an ease that professionals never experience. Maxxum's unique creative expansion card system is unlike anything in photography. It customizes your camera for special picture-taking situations, freeing you to exercise your creativity to make your photographs as exciting as they can be. The cards are a snap to install and use. Just open the door on the side of the camera. Position the card as shown in the diagram with the contacts down and toward the back. Slide it into the slot. Close the door, and you're all set. You can leave a card in the camera all the time. To turn it on or off, just push the card button. And of course, removing the card is just as easy. Open the door and slide the lever up. Take the card out of the slot. It's that easy. What do the cards do? Well, they give you the extra edge to take pictures like a professional, without spending years perfecting those skills. Let's look at the cards one at a time. First up is the AS card. This allows you to switch in 2 additional exposure modes: aperture priority and shutter priority. In aperture priority, you select the aperture, and the camera will automatically select the correct shutter speed for a perfect exposure. When you select a lower aperture number, which is a larger lens opening, it will limit the depth of field, or the area in focus. As I said in the composition section, this will help you to make your subject stand out against a busy background. When you select a higher aperture number, which is a smaller lens opening, it brings more of the background into focus. It ties the subject to the surroundings instead of isolating them. In the shutter priority mode, you select the shutter speed you want, and the camera will set the correct aperture for a perfect exposure. Select higher shutter speeds to freeze fast action, or select lower shutter speeds to produce subject blur and make moving objects flow, a look that shouts speed. The Sports Action card uses a special high-speed exposure program to always maintain the highest shutter speed possible. This helps you freeze the action on a fast-moving subject. It's especially useful with longer telephoto lenses. The Automatic Depth Control card always sets the camera for increased depth of field, along with a reasonable shutter speed. This ensures that your backgrounds will be as sharp as your subjects. This card is especially useful when traveling. You can make sure both the people and the backgrounds are sharp, so you don't miss any of the beautiful details from your trip. The Portrait card is the opposite of the Depth Control card. It adjusts the camera to isolate your subject from the background. It optimizes the aperture so that your subject stands out from the background. This card will work best with Minolta's 85mm, 100mm, and 135mm autofocus lenses. These lenses are the best focal lengths to use for the most pleasing portraits. The close-up card provides optimum depth of field for close-up and macro photography. Like the portrait card, it automatically adjusts the aperture according to the magnification of your subject to give a sharp subject set off by a soft background. You'll get the best close-up pictures with this card combined with Minolta's 50mm or 100mm macro lenses. That's the Maxxum Creative Card System, increasing the versatility of your Maxxum beyond anything you've ever experienced. Now, let's look at another way you can increase your photographic options, with filters. Sometimes reality is not how you want a picture to look. It could use a little help. And that's where filters come in. There are as many different filters as there are ways of looking at the world, and they're all easy to use. With some filters, all you have to do is screw them onto the front of the lens. For others, you first put on a filter holder and then put the filter in that. It's a good idea to put a UV or skylight filter on the front of every lens you have to protect the front element from dirt, fingerprints, and damage. It's an inexpensive way to protect your investment. Beyond that, the sky is the limit. For instance, the Koken Creative Filter System has more than 100 different filters available to help you exercise your imagination. Filters can make the sky a deeper blue when it's not, or create sunset at noon. Add a dreamlike mirror. You can add a wide variety of filters to help make the world look a little prettier, or more dramatic, or just to bring your own fantasies to life. And that brings us to our last section, some of the other accessories for the Maxxum family. One other Maxxum accessory you should know about. That's the data back. The DB5 on your pictures. You can choose among a number of different formats, and you can turn off the imprinting if you wish. This can serve as a reminder of just exactly when you took the picture. The selection of the film you use is another one of the accessory choices that you can make. The film determines many of the overall aspects of how your picture will look when you get it back from the photo finisher. Films with the word chrome in the name using a slide projector. These big, bright, colorful images are sure to have a big impact on your viewer. Films with the word color in the name will give you color print for friends and family, or make large prints to hang on the wall. There's one more choice you can make to help your photographs, the film's speed, or ISO rating. As a general rule, the lower the ISO rating, the better the quality of the final image. But films with a higher ISO number let you take pictures in lower lighting conditions without resorting to flash. This is great for indoor sports or romantic portraits of friends and family. Kodak makes a wide variety of high-quality films, and your photo retailer will help you choose the right film for the pictures you want. Just ask. Are also accessories which you'll want to use to help you advance in photography. They're like a monthly infusion of the latest ideas and techniques for you to use to make your photographs the best possible. Pop and American's editors and columnists all work every day with the cameras and films you use, and their experience will prove invaluable as you grow in this fascinating hobby. I also can't emphasize enough your photo retailer. They make sure that they have the most up-to-date information so you can make sure that you have the best pictures. You'll especially want to look out for this Minolta book on Maxxum photography. In addition to the tripods I've been mentioning, gadget bags are another accessory that you will want to help you conveniently carry the cameras, lenses, filters, and accessories that you use to make all of those great pictures. And of course, you'll want to keep all of these pictures in nice photo albums to easily are a great source for all of these accessories. They're also great sources of information about photography. As you grow in this wonderful form of self-expression, you'll want to keep in touch with your dealer to get the latest advice and information, not only about to help you make great pictures easier. You know, I've talked a lot about photography for the last few minutes, but I think that if there is one piece of advice I can give you that's probably the key, it is to take lots of pictures. It's the way I filled my photo albums with great photos. The more pictures you take, the more good ones you'll get. So there you have it, your new Minolta 5000i. We at Minolta would like to welcome you to the world of autofocus photography. Photography as it never existed before. Don't forget to send in your warranty card. And don't forget that you can always refer back to this tape to update yourself on the wonderful things you can do with your Maxxum camera. Most important of all, don't forget to take lots of pictures. After all, that's the best way to unlock the full potential of your Maxxum camera. Thanks for watching, and have fun.